Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are all having a blessed week. Mine's going pretty good. Hey, I got a couple videos I'm going to film this morning, and the first one is about divorce. I've had a lot of people contact me in the comments section and also via email wanting to know the absolute biblical reasons for divorce. And many different denominations have different rules for this, but in the Bible there are two very specific reasons for divorce. One was put forth by Jesus and one was put forth by Paul, and that's what we want to talk about. So the first rule is the rule of adultery. And adultery, that term means sex with any married person other than their spouse. That's what adultery is, sex between any married person and another person other than their spouse. And it says this in Matthew 5:32, "But I say unto you that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causes her to commit adultery. And whosoever shall marry her that is divorced, commits adultery." So any sexual relations between a husband and a wife and any third party is grounds for divorce, period. Now, a lot of people think that's the only rule. It's just adultery, that's it. But Paul gave us another rule, and it's called the rule of abandonment. And this is what it says. It's found in 1 Corinthians 10, 7-15. "And unto the married I command, yet not I but the Lord, let the wife not depart from her husband, but if she depart, let her remain unmarried or be reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband depart from his wife. But to the rest I speak, I, not the Lord, if a brother have a wife that believes not, and she is pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. And the woman which has a husband that believes not, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else your children would be unclean, but now they are holy." So what Paul's telling us right here, that if you're married and you're a born-again believer and you're married to someone who's not, you cannot leave them or divorce them just because they don't believe. You can't do that. That's what Paul's saying. But then this is what he goes on to say after all that. He's saying if they're happy with you, they love you, and they want to stay with you, even though they're not a believer, you can't put them away. But he goes on to say, and this is the rule of abandonment. But if this is verse 15. "But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or a sister is not under bondage in such cases. God has called us to peace." So if a person becomes a born-again believer and their spouse doesn't want any part to do with them, doesn't want nothing to do with them, they're free to leave. And you're free to divorce them and marry someone else. That's what Paul said. "But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or sister is not under bondage in such cases." Now that term, "is not under bondage in such cases," that word bondage literally means the marriage covenant, as he goes on to talk about. In 1 Corinthians 7:13, this is what he says. "The wife is not bound by the law as long as her husband lives, but if her husband be dead, she is at liberty to be married to whomever she will, only in the Lord." Now that word, the bound, that's talking about the marriage covenant, just like bondage in the other one. So if the unbelieving departs, the believer is free to divorce him and marry someone else. God has called us to peace. So those are the two biblical reasons for divorce. They're found in the adultery, which is found in Matthew 5:32, and the rule of abandonment, which is 1 Corinthians 7:10-15. Now there's one more I want to throw in on the top of that, and that is abuse. People, listen. In my personal opinion, I don't care if it falls under the adultery and the law of abandonment. Those are two that are scriptural. But one more that I would advise someone, if they came to me, if they had an abusive spouse who is physically or mentally abusing them, I would say they're free to leave. No one has to put up with that. But anyway, I hope that clears it up on divorce. 2 reasons. Number 1, adultery. Number 2, abandonment. Someone is married to a believer, they can't stand them, they want to leave, they're free to go. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. Anyway, heaven or hell, you choose. Just remember, once you take your last breath, it's a done deal.